You ever get hit by this sudden wave of feeling? Just off. Like one minute you're doing okay, maybe even coasting, and then the next it's like, bam, anxiety has just grabbed you, or maybe frustration is just bubbling up.
Yeah, like a pot about to boil over. That's a really, really common experience.
It feels like being totally swamped, by your own feelings.
Absolutely. And a psychologist whose guidance we're looking at today actually has a term for this. They call it an emotional storm.
An emotional storm. I like that. It captures the intensity, doesn't it?
It really does.
Yeah,
That feeling of being caught in something powerful and maybe a bit scary.
Exactly. So, okay, that's the weather system we're diving into today. And our mission, really, for this deep dive is to give you a practical, sort of straightforward 3-step method, something you can actually use to navigate these emotional storms.
Yeah, and get back to feeling a bit more grounded, more in control.
Right. Regain control.
And it's important to stress, like you said, this isn't about just stuffing the feelings down or pretending they're not there.
Because that never works.
It usually backfires. Yeah. This is more about developing a way to understand what's happening when these intense emotions hit.
And finding your balance again.
Finding your balance when things feel overwhelming. Exactly.
Okay, great. Let's get into it. Step 1. It's called observe.
Observe. Right.
So you feel that storm starting to kick up. Maybe you notice, I don't know, your shoulders get tight or your thoughts start racing.
Yeah, that internal chatter gets loud.
So what's the first thing you actually do?
Well, the very first thing is simply to pause. Just for a moment.
Yeah.
Even a few seconds can make a difference.
Just stop.
Just stop. Create a little bit of space. And that conscious pause lets you shift gears from just reacting automatically.
You're actually noticing.
Becoming aware.
Exactly. You start to become aware, and then the observation part really begins.
Okay, so what are we observing?
2 main things, really. What's happening in your body, those physical sensations? Like you mentioned, maybe a racing heart.
Yeah.
Faster breathing, tight muscles.
That's not in your stomach. That not in your stomach, yeah. And also paying attention to what's going on in your mind, your mental activity.
Like the thoughts themselves.
Exactly. What kind of thoughts are popping up? Are they critical, worried, angry? Just noticing the flavor of them,
And the source, the psychologist, really emphasizes being non-judgmental here. That seems key.
Oh, absolutely crucial. It's about noticing without evaluating, without immediately slapping a label on it like, this is bad, or I shouldn't feel this.
Or trying to push it away immediately.
Right. You're just gathering data, almost like a scientist, or the source uses the analogy of a wildlife photographer.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, just patiently watching the animal, the emotion in its natural habitat without disturbing it.
Just seeing it for what it is, acknowledging it's there.
Precisely.
Okay, so we're like watching the emotional weather forecast inside ourselves. The source also suggests mentally noting down these observations. What's the point of that?
Well, mentally noting it down, or you could even jot down a word or two if you wanted, helps create a little bit of distance.
Ah, so you're not completely in the feeling anymore.
Exactly. You shift from being totally consumed by it to having a slightly more objective perspective. Just a little bit.
Okay.
And what's interesting and really useful is that over time, this can help you spot patterns.
Patterns, like what triggers you.
Yeah, exactly. Connections between maybe certain situations, specific physical feelings, and those recurring thoughts that tend to show up. You start to see the whole picture a bit more clearly.
That makes sense. Understanding the mechanics of your own storms.
Right. And the source also points out this kind of self-observation, this record, can be really valuable information if you ever decide you want to talk things through with a therapist or counselor.
Right. You've already done some of the groundwork. Okay, step 1. Observe. Notice your body. Notice your thoughts. No judgment. Got it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the storm's definitely happening. We're aware of the thunder and lightning inside. What's step 2?
Step 2 is interrupt.
Interrupt. Okay. Why interrupt?
Well, the thinking here is that once those negative thought patterns get going, they can really spin up and make the emotions much more intense.
Oh, yeah, the downward spiral.
Exactly. It's like dominoes falling.
Mm-hmm.
One anxious thought knocks over the next, and suddenly you've gone from a small worry to a full-blown catastrophe in your mind.
Totally been there. You start with, like, did I leave the stove on?
Yeah.
And end up convinced the whole house is burning down.
Right. So interrupt is about breaking that chain reaction.
Okay, how? How do we, like, hit pause on that mental noise?
The idea is to deliberately shift your focus, to actively redirect your attention, even just for a short while, onto something completely different.
A distraction, basically.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
But a conscious, intentional distraction. And the source gives some really good practical examples.
Like what?
Well, deep breathing exercises are a big one.
Okay.
Because, and this is fascinating, deep breathing directly affects your physiology. It stimulates something called the vagus nerve, which helps trigger your body's relaxation response. So it's not just mental, it's physical.
Cool. What else?
Listening to music. That can capture your attention, shift your mood. Going for a walk is another good one.
Just changing your scenery?
Exactly. Changing your environment, getting some fresh air, moving your body sick. It all helps break the mental loop.
The source also mentions something called the Tuttle technique.
Ah, yes, the turtle technique. It's basically finding a quiet space, like retreating into your shell for a moment, just to calm down.
Like giving yourself a timeout.
Yeah.
An emotional pause button.
That's a great way to put it. A pause button. The goal with all these interruption techniques isn't to pretend the emotion isn't there.
Right, not suppression.
Not suppression. It's about creating a break, a little circuit breaker in that escalating cycle so you don't get completely swept away.
It gives you breathing room, a chance to kind of reset.
Exactly. Regain your equilibrium.
Okay, makes sense. So we've interrupted the spiral. What's the third step? The final piece.
The third step is link.
Link. Link to what?
This is about linking back to your body's own natural calming systems, actively engaging them. The source touches on the nervous system.
Okay.
And basically, without getting too technical, you can think of it as having two main gears. One gear gets you revved up, ready for action. That's often called the stress response.
Fight or flight. Heart pounds, muscles tense.
Yep, that's the one. Your sympathetic nervous system. And the other gear helps you slow down, rest, recover. Your parasympathetic system.
Rest and digest.
That's the one. So when we're in an emotional storm, that first gear, the stress response, is often stuck in overdrive.
Right. Makes sense.
So the link step is all about intentionally doing things that help shift you into that second gear, activating the calming system.
Okay, so how do we consciously flip that switch? The source had some specific examples, right?
Yes, and they're mostly simple, everyday things you can integrate. Abdominal breathing, that slow, deep belly breathing, is a really direct way to signal calm down to your nervous system.
We mentioned breathing in interrupt, too, so it does double duty.
It absolutely does. It's powerful for both interrupting and calming. Another one is eating slowly and mindfully.
Instead of wolfing down lunch at your desk while stressed.
Exactly. Taking the time to actually taste and savor your food. That simple act can be very grounding. Physical activity comes up again, too. Even just a gentle walk.
Releases tension.
Releases tension, helps regulate things. And then there are activities like singing.
Singing, really?
Yeah. Apparently, the vibrations and breath control involved in singing can stimulate that vagus nerve again, promoting relaxation.
Huh. Interesting.
And finally, spending time in nature. Just being outdoors, looking at trees, listening to birds. It has a well-documented calming effect.
Okay, so these aren't just like random nice things to do. They actually have a physiological basis for helping us regulate.
Precisely. They are concrete actions that help engage your body's built-in calming mechanisms and bring you back toward balance.
It's about linking those actions deliberately to the times you feel that storm brewing or when you're in the middle of it.
Yes. Making that conscious link, it's a proactive step to man up the intensity.
Okay, let's do a quick recap of this whole approach. The source calls it the OIL method, right? OIL.
That's a handy acronym for it, yeah.
So O is for observe. Noticing what's going on inside body, thoughts without the judgment.
Just gathering awareness.
I is for interrupt. Breaking that negative thought spiral using deliberate distractions like breathing, music, movement.
Creating that crucial pause.
And L is for link. Consciously engaging in activities like deep breathing, slow eating, walking, singing, nature time. Things that activate your body's calming response.
Yep. Linking to your body's natural regulators. Observe, interrupt, link.
And the big picture goal here.
The overall aim, as the psychologist emphasizes, is really empowerment. It's about equipping you to find more balance when those emotional waves hit, because they will hit.
They're part of being human.
Exactly. So it's moving from feeling like you're just being tossed around by the storm.
So you're feeling more like you have some tools, some skills to actually navigate it.
Navigate it with more understanding and maybe a bit more grace. Becoming more the master of your emotions rather than the other way around.
So as you're listening and thinking about this OIL method, observe, interrupt, link, maybe consider, how might actually applying these steps consciously change things the next time you feel one of those challenging emotions starting to ramp up?
Yeah, that's a great question. And maybe also think about those link activities we listed. Which ones sort of jumped out at you?
Which ones feel doable in your own life?
Right. Which feel most accessible or maybe even enjoyable for you? Which could you realistically turn to when you need to dial down that emotional intensity?
Because this OIL method, it feels like a really practical starting point, doesn't it?
It really does. A set of tools you can start experimenting with right away.
It's a pathway towards greater self-awareness, better emotional regulation.
And hopefully it encourages a bit more exploration, a deeper dive into understanding and navigating your own inner world with maybe a bit more confidence and control.